Hello and welcome to the Doctor Podcast Network. My name is Evelyn Cora. I'm an investor relations advisor with Lightspeed Investing. I am so excited to be here and to be able to share our president and CEO's personal story. I want to go ahead and welcome Philip Jayhawk Chan, and he'll go ahead and elaborate more on his personal story.
Hey, fellow doctors, how are you guys doing? As Evelyn stated, I am the president and CEO of Lightspeed Investing and super excited to give you guys more insight on how I evolved from an aspiring surgeon to now being in business, specifically being affiliated with this company. So my story started in the city of international commerce. My family and I actually moved from Hong Kong when I was 9 and have been in Overland Park, Kansas ever since. Now, I'm someone who has always been known to forge my own paths. So essentially, growing up, my father owned an accounting firm, but I said thanks, no thanks to that opportunity because one, I didn't want to wake up in the city, and two, I didn't want to wake up and do people's taxes. And so when he was like, okay, kiddo, well, what do you want to do? I had no clue, right? But I told him, I'm not sure. Let me explore the medical field and go be a surgeon. At the time, it was really appealing to me as a career path because I knew that I could be very hands-on. I could not just utilize my medical and clinical knowledge to help patients better their health, but I could actually do something in an interactive manner, right? I was always an athlete growing up as well. So that hands-on aspect of becoming a surgeon really appealed to me. However, what happened during my journey, right, as a pre-med, I was KU's pre-med triple major in 5.5 years. Ultimately, was that it allowed me to open my eyes after becoming more and more immersed in the medical field, having 200 plus hours in the OR room, and getting my resume, ready for medical school. I recognized that long term, the medical environment would not be conducive to my own happiness and fulfillment. And the reason being is, there's a lot of studying involved. But on top of that, the nature of being successful, right, before you even become a practicing clinician or surgeon, essentially diminished my natural personality. I found myself being a mute when I had to study for 10, 12 hours for the mock MCATs. And by the way, I had to take the new MCAT, right, with the new sections of psychology and sociology. So it was not the 4.5 hour exam that my sister and her peers took. My sister's a child neurologist up in Tacoma. She's about 6 years older than me. Rather, the new MCAT with the psychology and sociology section, those mock exams lasted about 8 hours. And then on top of that, right, I was also getting my master's working part-time at the Kansas City Orthopedic Institute urgent care department while I was doing my master's under KU Med part-time. And again, it was the same thing, right? Juggling my master's and the MCAT. I really didn't speak to a lot of people because I was just always studying, and I've not always had a natural business personality. So I just knew that long term, if I had to keep it up, it would not be healthy for me. And I had to find a way out.
Awesome. And what challenges did you face and how did you overcome them during that time period?
You know, um, it was really about finding myself and finding my own purpose and direction. Uh, Coming from Hong Kong, I always knew that, even if I did get into medicine, business was something that I would be very involved with once I got my MD. And so, when I picked my master's, I went ahead and I chose the applied statistics, analytics, and data science degree under KU Med's biostatistics department because that was the only non-clinically related degree that I knew would allow me to actually pivot to business and entrepreneurship if I wanted to make that pivot. In a way, I kind of had an inkling that medicine was not for me, but I didn't want to give up, right? I didn't want to quit on it. So when I was choosing my master's, I still went with a degree that would give me versatility and flexibility. Ultimately, a lot of my challenges came from, you know, my family, of course. They thought I had already invested so much time, energy, and effort to becoming a surgeon, and just to forego it, right? But which is why I think, there is a compound interest in life, and I never gave up. I made sure that I put my skills to use. And so when I pivoted into entrepreneurship, I definitely struggled at the beginning. I had to find my own way, and I'm glad that I found footing in all things business and leadership development. So, I mean, in business, similar to medicine, success is predicated off of the skill sets that you cultivate intentionally. And
Mhm.
for me, what really gravitated towards me was the skill set of leadership, right? I played a lot of basketball growing up as a Jayhawk in Kansas. And so leadership to me was always important, whether you're a point guard on the basketball court, running the team, if you are a team physician, right, for an NBA team, or a team owner. Um, and even outside of career related responsibilities, if you are someone's older brother, older sister, husband, wife, leadership also has a component in there. So I just recognized that that was, a really underrated skill, and I was very passionate in teaching, business owners and up and coming entrepreneurs how to properly become a leader. And I'm so glad that I did that because even though I found footing there, right, I went through certain struggles in business, right, marketing, sales, client fulfillment, trying to figure out how do I systematize everything. But on top of that, um, how do I get myself from, a monthly subscriptions in terms of clients to higher ticket clients? And so I continue to educate myself, hone my skill sets, and I'm so glad that I didn't stop, because as I continue to network by putting myself in the right rooms with the right people to put myself in a position of success, that's where I actually ran into my now business partner at a networking event before the turn of 2023. And it was just a serendipitous moment, right? My business partner, he himself is a former internal medicine physician. However, he pivoted from medicine to go into business, to start managing money and teaching others how to properly invest and navigate the future's financial markets, because he cultivated that skill set, um, uh, as a teenager. Now his mom actually still wanted him to go through medical school, and finish that path. So he only worked 1 year as a former internal medicine doc. But I'm blessed to have had that opportunity, because if I didn't, I mean, if I didn't meet him, I probably, I would still be trying to figure things out on my own. And it's a lot easier to go further, right, with a team. So obviously, my business partner, he is a bit older than me. He's, been in business for over 15 years. He's approaching his 40s. And just as someone who's in my early 30s. So in a way, he's also my mentor, and business partner, and my big bro, right? So that's kind of how I evolved from being an aspiring surgeon to then trying to figure out my own way in entrepreneurship, to now in this collaboration opportunity where I'm president and CEO. And the best part was, when I first met him, we knew was a great synergy and alignment. And I just kind of took a leap of faith, right? He was the last person I networked with. We spoke for about an hour and a half, and we walked out of the event together. And what I learned, right, about him was he had developed an uncanny skill set to essentially perform microsurgery in and out of the markets, right? To perform microsurgery, trading the futures financial markets in terms of his precision. And, after learning more and assessing, I actually decided to become a client first to learn his methodologies and skill set, right? Very small level things at the beginning, learning how to take a couple $100 to over a couple of $1,000. But what happened was it was during those intimate client conversations that allowed for two independent business owners to come together and realize there's opportunities, right, to partner up. Because my footing in business and leadership development was also a skill set that he knew was important, but he didn't necessarily cultivate on his end. So it was a great collaborational opportunity, and we both agreed that we should probably do something about it, and ended up officializing the partnership right after 2023 happened. So that's kind of how I got my position as president and CEO. But of course, I didn't start there, right? I started as client, and then we gave it a test trial to see if the partnership would work. And of course, I continued to perform according to the terms of our agreement of what I'm responsible for. And it was after several months of meritocracy, right, where you earn your keep, and me producing results that was beyond satisfactory, that allowed this current opportunity to open up.
Wow, that's really impactful. What advice would you give to someone who's looking to pursue a career or even entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I would say, again, with all things in life, your skill sets are really going to serve as a powerful foundation, and not all skill sets are created equal. So I would say, having that self-awareness of, what is it that you are naturally good at, right, in terms of the skill sets. What are the skill sets that make you, have passion for, and in a way where you're also naturally good at it, to where if you really hone in on it to develop that expertise, you would command a lot of attention, because no matter what field you're in, right, as long as you're at the top of the mountain,
Mhm.
you're going to naturally command attention and market share. So my advice is make sure you cultivate skill sets and be open-minded enough to then collaborate with others who has skill sets that you don't necessarily have, that allows for a collaborational play, in where when you do combine them, right, you can get a bigger result. You can have bigger success as a group.
Has your perspective on success and achievement evolved throughout your career change?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, certainly I thought initially success was if I could get through my MCAT, right, and having those GPA and my medical resume primed for medical school, and then of course going through med school, having the right scores for step national boards 1 and 2 to qualify for a esteemed and prestigious residency program, which was obviously all very structured, organized, and relevant in the academic world. Pivoting to business is totally different. Success in business it's a little bit flipped, where it's not just studying all the time. It's about the actual execution and doing, right? You got to send out emails, you got to make phone calls, you got to make outreaches, so to speak. And the most important thing that I learned is, in medicine, we deal always in life and death situation. Hence, the precision, right, with the high GPA, MCAT requirements, because if you mess up the first time, someone's life is in jeopardy. However, in business, right, and life in general, what I've learned is you have more flexibility to embrace failure, because in business it's all about execution. So quite the opposite. What you want to do is, there's a saying, it's ready, fire, and then aim, right? Because what happens in business is the more you do, the more feedback you will get, and that allows you to make adjustments rapidly, right, to then evolve to the next level, as opposed to just waiting until you feel like something is perfect before you execute, right? It's about speed to the market. Now, of course, you never really want to have a horrible, product where, the first time it shows up on the market, people are just going to throw it away. There's a saying called the best known beats best. So if you are able to come up with a product that's 70%, quality, right? It's basically passable, run with it. If you look at Apple, the iPhone, they give you a phone, but what do? They say, hey, like in about a week or two, we're going to give you some software updates because they know that the phone or the software itself is not naturally, at perfection, but they don't need to wait until perfection to put it out to the market. As long as it's over 70% is passable, it's got that functionality, but that oomph at the same time, right? Now you just make that disclaimer, hey, like, appreciate you being a client. Just wait a little bit longer and you're gonna see some updates, right? So that's definitely, how my definition of success has evolved, going from a a studious academic to very action oriented president and CEO.
I think that's awesome. And, one of the biggest questions that we all have is what's your biggest why?
Yeah, that's a great question. My biggest why is to create an inspiration and motivation for my peers, my fellow peers who feel like growing up, right, according to traditional advice, that doctor, lawyer, engineer is the best way to go. Certainly from experience and from studying greatness and successful people, not studying medical textbooks, but actually putting forth the effort to study people who have made it in life. You're gonna find out that um ironically, right, not all of them are doctors and surgeons. As a matter of fact, the people who make it to Forbes usually are not. So I would say, in that regards, like my biggest why is to create a inspiration, right, of what is possible outside of pursuing medicine, where you can still find success, and of course to illuminate, right, details on how that can be done. Because I feel like there's a lot of people out there, they want to be successful, but they are limited in their options because of traditional advice, whatever access they may have in certain environments, whatever wisdom is being told, right? Whether it be conventional wisdom or wisdom that is passed along, from family members who, to be quite frank with you, may not know better, right? So that's definitely a big why is to, you know, say, hey, outside of status quo, there are other options to create success and wealth for yourself.
What strategies do you use to stay motivated, to maintain a sense of purpose at your work?
Sure, that's a great question. I would necessarily, well, to be honest, I would say it's if you have to feed on something just to get naturally motivated, then you're still searching for that purpose, if that makes sense. Because if you have to coach someone on being motivated, then there's kind of a issue, right? Like, um, you if you have to basically motivate someone to open up an MCAT textbook or national boards one, national boards two, etc., then they're not naturally excited about medicine, right? And that's a sign. So I would actually say, if you have to put effort in just to motivate yourself to go into something, you should really explore, things that, you know, call to you, where you get passionate and excitement to go after it without having to reference materials to motivate you. Because otherwise, that's I mean, what are you gonna do on those challenging days, right? I mean, you're gonna have ups and downs in life. Um, in the hospitals, right? They have this heart rate monitor, and when someone passes, that monitor flatlines. So it's very indicative that, right, when the heart is beating, just like in life, the essence of life is to have ups and downs, right? But the point is, if you are seeking a resource just to generate motivation, you're going to have a really tough time during those down days, right? Because discipline is what's going to keep you going on top of the motivation, right? Maybe sometimes you don't feel like doing something, but you're disciplined enough to still go go out and go get it, right? And if you don't even if you have to have help on getting that motivation, then boy, it's going to be a very, very long road for those that apply.
And I think that's some good insights that you share, because that could be a pivotal turning point in anybody's, life and career, and the importance of staying motivated. Outside of that, what other things would you share with your listeners right now?
You know, there's I just want to echo, there's more than one way to become successful. And if you look at my journey and again, studied not just medical textbooks, but greatness and success, you're going to find a lot of clues. And the more you actually study in that regards, you will find natural inspiration and motivation for you to look at certain things that you personally gravitate towards. And, when you find that, right, don't sleep on it. Take action on it, because that it could lead to something really, really beautiful for you. But you got to be willing to put those action steps. You got to be willing to obviously study greatness. You have to have the desire to want to be successful. But it's not just locked in one or two ways, is what I would say. And I really want to make sure I stress that.
Well, Philip, thank you so much for sharing your personal story. It helps so many other people who are going or thinking through some of the same challenges.
Of course. Thank you so much. And best of luck, everyone.
All right.